I've been talking about building muscle with sandbags for years now, and while I've made some claims and shown some pretty undeniable proof, for the most part, I have always tried my best not to overstep my bounds, or said differently, not to cross that line into unreasonable fanatic territory. You know how that goes. Someone gets excited about a thing and can't help but make all kinds of unreasonable statements about it. Everything they say ends up being straight, trust me bro, kind of stuff. It'd be easy to treat sandbags that way. Surge in popularity or no, they are still relatively unknown to the majority, but I've always based my judgments on things I've actually observed, stating facts rather than trying to convince anybody of anything. One such claim I made way back, we're talking like 3 years ago now, was that sandbags are not the best way to build the quads. My experience at that point told me that was true. My quads always got way more sore from pretty much any kind of barbell movement than they did from sandbags, and after focusing on sandbags entirely for a while, I had a clear posterior chain dominant build. That was a lesson I just kinda held on to and never questioned. I've been saying for a long time now, sandbags will give you that, quote, athletic build, where the quads will be developed, of course, but they'll likely be overshadowed by the glutes and hams. Well, I recently got a wake-up call, and I think after all this time, I need to change my stance. When used in the right way, sandbags will make your quads ridiculous. A while back, I made the claim that sandbag box squats are the ultimate sandbag exercise for taking nearly the entire body to complete failure and building muscle and strength everywhere. For some reason, I still kept that idea about the quads falling behind in mind when I said that, but after discovering the exercise, I knew I was onto something. My only problem at that point was time. When I made that box squat claim, I simply hadn't worked with the movement long enough to prove my theory correct. Well, time has now passed. I recently committed an entire year to high-rep sandbag box squats, during which I did a few pretty wild things. I took a 275-pound sandbag for a set of 50 reps, 150 for 1,000, and though I've been working on other stuff for a while now, I did also just take a 315 sandbag for a set of 28. Those second two were done at a body weight of around 150 for reference. Hoping to prove myself right, for an entire year, I did heavy, high-rep sandbag box squats multiple times every single week without fail, and you know what? The gains were even better than I thought they'd be. At this point, my theory has become truth. Going back to the quads, given the fact that I was doing an exercise with squat in the name, you might assume during that year I was checking out my legs every other day, but that couldn't be further from the truth. I knew my glutes were growing a bunch, that was too obvious to ignore, as was the upper body mass, but with my previous findings in mind, even though I knew my quads were likely growing, even though I could feel them hitting failure over and over every single training session, I still just ignored them for the most part. That was until recently. I've been getting a lot of questions about my legs these last few months, which makes sense. After all those squats, who wouldn't wonder? So just to see, I finally took the time to get some footage, and what the hell? Without me even noticing, my quads have become one of the most developed areas on my entire body. That's not necessarily saying much, but proportionally, my quads are now a standout feature. Even better, much of the mass has gone directly to that outer sweep, which is probably why I didn't notice the gains happening. In the past, I always associated big quads with my thighs rubbing together all day being annoying. Turns out that was likely just due to all those low-bar, wide-stance barbell squats I used to do. Now, I realize you might be thinking, duh, of course your quads grew, you did a bunch of squats, dummy. And I wouldn't blame you for that, but before high-rep box squats, sandbags really did always leave my quads lagging. Regular bear hug freestanding squats and most single leg work often ends up being held back by core strength or the arms, or because holding a sandbag in a bear hug position is simply uncomfortable and makes breathing hard. The wider stance required to do freestanding bear hug squats with any kind of real weight also means you'll be working the inner thighs more than the outer. Squat variations where the bag is on the shoulder often end up being limited by core strength rather than leg strength. Lifting a bag from the ground or the lap biases the glutes and hams, as does most sandbag work in general. Before box squats, I found it very challenging to push my quads to real failure with sandbags. Something else would always give out first, and while maybe reaching true failure isn't absolutely necessary for muscle growth, if everything else is reaching that point and the quads aren't, it makes sense they'd fall behind. Everything is different now. In addition to getting you a back like Bane, a bear hug grip like the world's best hug champion, making your glutes and hams so thick you'll look like you just got back from 20 years of hiking vertical trails all day. If you've seen the type, you'll know what I mean. building both max strength and strength endurance, making you stronger for every other sandbag exercise, and dramatically improving stability overall. In addition to all of that, sandbag box squats also do what no other sandbag exercise can and get you quads like a bodybuilder. Nice. Now that I can officially update that sandbag muscle tier list ranking I made 3 years ago and move the quads up to S tier, I'd want to cover the exact method I recommend using with sandbag box squats so you can maximize their potential. It starts with how you view them. Always remember, box squats are a full body movement, not just a legs exercise. To maximize that full body engagement, you'll want to use what might otherwise be considered a cheating style. Rather than trying to stay ultra strict and lifting yourself off the box with your legs alone, initiate the move by first rocking back, then propelling yourself forward with as much momentum as you can manage. You want to essentially throw yourself off the box. Think of this like you would any kind of max strength or power move. The goal is moving the weight from point A to point B, not forcing yourself to lift with a set of arbitrary rules in mind just because supposedly those rules mean more muscle. No, just focus on standing up and don't worry about anything else beyond that. Using this cheating style allows the back and legs to fatigue at an even pace. Quick side note, also be sure to set your box height so you reach parallel or close to it at the bottom of your reps, parallel being the position where your thighs are parallel with the ground and or the crease of your hips is at roughly the same height as the tops of your knees. Like using the cheating style, the parallel position helps with pushing the entire body evenly. Box too high and you'll need heavier weight and your back will give out first. Box too low and your legs will fatigue way before your back. Body proportions play a big part in this, but typically a box that sits 10 to 20 inches off the ground works well. A 12-inch box is perfect for me. Also, keep in mind, this is a concentric or lifting-based movement. Yes, a lot of muscle growth typically happens when doing the negative part of exercises, but the lifting part does build muscle too, and here, that's what it's all about. As you lower yourself back down to your box from the top position, allow the bag to rest on your thighs as soon as you can. That might be at the point where you've only made it back down halfway, depending on the size of your sandbag. That's perfect. Like before, from one point of view, maybe that seems like cheating, but I say, who cares? It works, and that's all that matters. You will be able to accumulate way more effective reps with much heavier weights this way, and the entire body will fatigue together as one unit. Again, just worry about standing up, then sitting down, and let everything else happen as it will. I do realize that in a video about box squats and the quads, giving you instructions on how to make box squats work more than just the quads might seem a bit counterintuitive, but using this approach alongside what I'm about to recommend next, you'll actually be able to take your quads way further to a place far beyond ordinary muscle failure, which will lead to extreme muscle growth. Next, I'd recommend using a rest pause approach with this exercise, that being the style of training where you'd first do as many reps as you can, then rest a couple seconds and do another rep when you're able, rest again, do another rep, and continue on until you've pushed yourself well beyond ordinary failure. Due to the concentric nature of box squats, and also because they seem to tap into that fundamental plane, that place where basic human movement lives, you can get away with some crazy volume and still recover fine. Just to quickly explain what I mean by that, there seems to be something special about fundamental human movement patterns, especially those that involve the entire body, and even more especially when those patterns involve basic natural shapes. Sandbag box squat is about as fundamental human movement pattern as it gets. You're essentially just sitting down onto something, then standing back up, and a sandbag represents the most basic shape of all. This is probably a whole video topic in and of itself, but just to say, a movement that's so basic like this one is highly spammable. You can do hundreds of heavy reps every single week without ever running yourself into the ground, and the more you do, the more those gains seem to pile on. So back to rest pause. I recommend using the rest pause method to push your box squat sets to unreasonable, maybe even seemingly impossible levels. My typical suggestion, which is outlined in great detail in my sandbag intensity video here on YouTube by the way, is taking a weight you could do for a set of 10 without resting between reps and trying to push it all the way to 50. You do this by first taking that set of 10 and rest pausing your way to 15, then going for 20 next workout, then 25, and so on until you reach 50. That may sound crazy. 50 reps? I know. But I assure you, this training style is very possible. At least hundreds of people have shown that now, and the results you get from it are nothing short of incredible. Pair the cheat style reps with lots of rest pause, and not only will a very large part of your body reach basic failure and stay there for a long time, but you'll end up pushing so far beyond that too, in a way you just can't replicate elsewhere. This brings to mind an old Arthur Jones quote. I know I mentioned this in a box squat video I made 8 months ago, but it's worth repeating. Personally, I am beginning to suspect that best results for lower body exercises, particularly for the buttocks and the thighs, come from one set of very high repetitions, perhaps as many as 100 or more. It is a very painful way to train and not a very pleasant way to train, but all indications that I have at this point indicate that it is a very productive way to train, if you can stand it, if you can tolerate it. And surprisingly, if you're doing an exercise like the squat, it does not require much of a reduction in resistance. If you can do one repetition with 400 pounds, then you can probably do 100 reps with 380. So, a slight reduction in maximum weight will permit you to do an enormous number of repetitions. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I couldn't find any definitive proof online, but seeing as Arthur was the creator of Nautilus machines, when he said squat, I assume he was referring to machine squats, not barbell squats. No one with a max squat of 400 is taking 380 for 100 reps in a single set with a barbell. That in mind, the sandbag box squat is the only non-machine-based exercise I can think of that allows you to continue pumping out reps to that point without ever needing to set the weight down completely. Doing 100 reps with a very heavy weight really is possible here. To add even more fuel to the box squats are awesome fire, sandbag box squats also seem to exist in a place similar to barbell breathing squats, as outlined in the book Super Squats by Randall J. Strawson, where the goal is taking a weight you could barbell back squat for 10 reps and rest pausing your way to 20 by taking deep breaths between reps, all while supporting a heavy bar on your back. There is no doubt in my mind supporting that weight for so long is part of what makes super squats so effective, and I'm sure all that time under load contributes to the overall muscle growth you get from a training system like that. I'm not trying to reinvent the wheel here or anything, but having run super squats myself in the past, the bar being on your back during the entire set is also what prevents you from ever pushing all the way to ultra high rep territory. It's just not possible, which is why the goal is only 20 reps. Sandbag box squats don't have that problem. Because the bottom position of the movement is a place of rest, you can almost always recover enough to do another rep if you have the will, which makes that thing Arthur Jones said possible, even without needing a special machine. And again, because sandbag box squats are such a fundamental movement, and because there's so little eccentric loading going on, you can do all those reps without needing 2 weeks to recover, which means you can come in and do your box squats again a couple days later and push even further, and further again until you've claimed all the gains for yourself. Now that I'm able to look back on a full year of specialization, I'd like to leave you with one final thing, so you might know what to expect when starting your sandbag box squat quest. I mentioned the exercise is great for pushing nearly the entire body to true failure, quads included, thus building lots of strength and muscle. That's true, but it typically doesn't happen all at once. The true benefits of the sandbag box squat will likely only show up after working with it for a long time. I'm talking at least a few months. If you want to go down this path, it will take real commitment on your part, and if you stop too soon, you might be left wondering what all the fuss was about. Stick with it though, and eventually you will get there, to that place where everything is in perfect harmony, and man, when you do, you'll be so glad you didn't give up early. Here's how things typically go. You attempt that first workout, and while the box squats may be tough, they'll probably feel a bit underwhelming overall. Your back and legs will feel it, but more than anything, it will likely be your grip or core that make you stop the set. That's normal. Even if you already have a strong grip and midsection, it's strength endurance you need here more than anything, and that will take some time. After a few sessions, you'll adapt, and then you'll likely start noticing one of 3 areas holding you back: your upper back, your glutes, or your quads. Let's say it's your quads first. You try to keep pushing the reps further, but that burn in your legs is just too much, and you can't possibly lock out your knees another single time, so you end the set. It happens this way 3 or 4 workouts in a row, then you notice a switch. Workout 5, your legs are good to keep going, but somehow now your upper back just isn't able to handle the weight, even though you thought your upper back was a strong point. That happens for a few workouts, then you realize it's your glutes reaching failure before everything else. After that, it's back to the core or grip, and the cycle repeats and continues. Back and forth as the weeks go by, you find it's always one of those things holding you back from reaching true, complete, total body failure. Then that thing becomes stronger, and it's on to the next thing, and so on. And eventually, one day, a couple months down the road, after fighting your way through countless battles, you realize you finally made it. You've reached that place of balance where every part of your body fatigues evenly, everything together all at once, synchronized exhaustion. That's where the true magic happens. The sandbag box squat shapes you into something without any weak links. It takes time, but once all individual weakness has been conquered, you'll find you're suddenly able to jump forward rapidly. Where before a set of 25 was challenging, you might find now you can somehow push to 40. Where 50 reps was end of the world tough last time, now you show up, reach that 50 mark, and realize you've hardly broken a sweat. This is the place you need to get to for maximum gains. Push yourself through those early stages, temper your body to the movement, allow yourself to be consumed by the squat and to be remade by it. Make it there, and the results will be undeniable. So there it is. I used to think sandbags were suboptimal for building the quads. Turns out box squats were the fix. I hope you enjoyed this one. If you're looking to get started with sandbags, check out the video on screen. And if you want someone there with you as you take on this awesome journey, I am available for one-on-one coaching. Check out the link in the description for more info, or just send me a message somewhere and we'll get set up. And with that, as always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.